Under the guise of a well-deserved holiday for my suffering parents, we boarded a plane and landed in Vienna on the 21st of April, 1962. However, after a relaxing stroll together in the nearest park, my parents revealed that this was not quite the trip I was expecting. They told me that I was becoming far too comfortable living under their roof, and that it was high time that I saw what the world had to offer me, if I would be so gracious as to get off my backside and hunt it out for myself. Sensing my uneasiness at being solitary, my father thrust his box brownie into my sweating palm and muttered, "Character, like a photograph, develops in darkness." What a flake. I thought this was all part of an elaborate ruse, so decided to play along. But the taxi came to a stop and, well, they left. The camera did offer some solace for the first few days, but soon its novelty, and that of this entire trip, was wearing thin. On a particularly gloomy Thursday, I traipsed around and merely took photo after photo, image after image, fleeting memories, statues, people. I was indiscriminate, and soon ran out of film. I began to panic, my head throbbed, so I rushed to the top of the nearest church I could to gasp in clean air, and momentarily, I was back with the family. As I stumbled down the church steps, I fell into a stout little man with a thick accent, Johann, and his taller, more reserved son, Julian. Johann demanded that I visit the hospital and offered to pay my bus fare. It had been the first conversation I'd had in days, and I wasn't in a rush to end it. As it turns out, Johann was a retired travel writer, and on hearing my peculiar story, brought it upon himself to create an itinerary across Germany. He instructed Julian, along with his other son Adrian, to ensure I secured safe passage and learnt a thing or two along the way. I was only to send postcards to him as a way of thanks. Johann would, however, happily show me around his hometown of Dusseldorf, and it was there that I learned of his quick temper and passion for neoclassical windows. As we walked, he picked out a particularly beautiful building on the other side of the street and asked which part I thought was most special. I didn't know what to say, so shrugged. He almost flew at me. Because this building, its style of window, it had been his crux, he announced, his key in creating travel routes. He would visit sites with these windows whenever he could. He told me to think of something I loved, and think of ways it could lead me onwards. To his annoyance, I couldn't think of anything, and exasperated, he left me with Julian. Julian was a keen photographer, but was not as keen to share his talent with me. He was in constant disbelief at my fascination with taking cityscapes whilst on the move. "It's just blur after blur," he would cry each time a roll of film would come back. He accompanied me on the bus from Dusseldorf, and on the way explained quite simply that he preferred portraits, although he did not appreciate having his picture taken. But it was on the train to Münster that I lost Johann's address. I never fulfilled my side of the bargain. But then again, neither did Adrian. Adrian worked long hours at the local television station and was forever bumping into colleagues and conducting walking meetings. Unlike his father, he displayed neither warmth or courtesy. He seemed the type of man who might ask a child to refrain from running about outside as it was creating the most irritating breeze. That's probably why I thanked him for his time and decided to go my own way. I also didn't care to mention that I had inadvertently left the itinerary on the train. I don't think he would have been too forgiving of that either. I didn't know exactly where I was headed to next, but I didn't care. I thought I might have just worked out where my crux was, and I was going to let it lead me onwards, and upwards. I was going to chase churches. I was going to rush to the top of every church I could find and gasp in the cool air, in the vain hope it might bring me closer to home.